For 10 years, for a full decade, it has stood like a colossal skeleton thrust into the sky, silently reigning over the outskirts of Tianjin. Wind, the sole visitor to its hollow frame, played a mournful symphony through its 1,000 gaping floors. It was once the city's deepest scar, the most magnificent monument to a speculative era, and the most tantalizing vertical labyrinth in the eyes of global urban explorers. This is the Golden Finance 117 Tower, the world's tallest unfinished building, soaring to a height of 597 meters. Yet at this very moment, in the high summer of 2025, this slumbering behemoth is slowly opening its eyes. But is this a rebirth, or a more complex summoning of a spirit? Buried beneath the clamor of its revival lies a frantic story of ambition, collapse, oblivion, and redemption. To understand its present, we must return to a yesterday where gold and bubbles danced in unison. Back in the first decade of the 21st century, China was in the midst of an unprecedented genesis. The largest migration in human history propelled over 300 million people from rural farmlands into the neon glow of the cities. This torrent fueled the frenzied growth of steel and concrete jungles and ignited the fiercest flames in the real estate market. In that era, height was faith, and landmarks were scepters. A city's ambition required the coronation of a skyscraper. It was against this backdrop that Pan Sudong, a legendary Hong Kong tycoon and financial magnate, set his sights on Tianjin. He intended to build not just a tall building, but a sprawling empire named Golden Metropolitan, a city within a city crafted for the top 1% of the pyramid, complete with premier luxury residences, a polo club, shopping malls, and an international convention center. And the crown of this empire was the Golden Finance 117 Tower. 597 meters, 117 floors. The number itself was a declaration, nearly 100 meters taller than the then-reigning Taipei 101, 508 meters. It was designed to challenge the Shanghai Tower and claim the title of China's tallest. Its design was the epitome of luxury, with a gigantic diamond-shaped crown planned for its pinnacle, meant to glitter under the sun like a totem of the developer's supreme power and wealth. This was not merely a commercial project, but a collusion of politics and capital. For the local government, a skyline-altering spectacle like this was a priceless political achievement, a symbol of the city's elevated status. And so, Pan Sudong smoothly acquired his coveted land. On August 18, 2008, a bet of the century with a price tag of over $10 billion officially began. Setting aside the capital gains behind it, the 117 Tower itself is undoubtedly a work of engineering art, a symphony of violent aesthetics composed of steel and concrete. To stably lift such a slender, soaring structure to a height of nearly 600 meters required challenging the limits of contemporary engineering. A heart of steel and bone, at its core is a massive reinforced concrete core tube, which, like a human spine, provides the building's primary vertical support. From this spine, enormous outrigger and belt trusses extend like outstretched arms, firmly gripping the peripheral megacolumns and dramatically increasing the building's lateral stiffness against strong winds and earthquakes. The wind nemesis. Tianjin is a coastal city, making wind load the #1 adversary this tower had to face. Engineers conducted thousands of hours of wind tunnel tests on its model, continuously optimizing the building's aerodynamic profile to minimize the sensation of swaying at high altitudes. A titan's toes. Tianjin's geological conditions are relatively soft. To support this behemoth weighing over 1 million tons, hundreds of deep piles were driven tens of meters into the ground until they reached solid bedrock. Like the toes of a giant, they evenly distribute the mountain-like weight deep into the Earth's crust. Vertical velocity. Although never completed, the original plan included the installation of over 80 super high-speed elevators, with the fastest reaching speeds of 10 meters per second. The journey from the ground floor to the top observation deck would have taken less than a minute, offering an unparalleled vertical transit experience. This was a building born for glory. its every detail flaunting humanity's ambition to conquer nature and touch the sky. However, just as it was about to reach its zenith and be deified, a storm no one anticipated was quietly approaching from another dimension. The tragedy of the 117 Tower stemmed not from an engineering failure, but from its fragile financial model, which, like a house of cards built on quicksand, collapsed with a deafening crash. In mainland China, real estate development operates under a unique set of rules. Developers can typically use government-granted land rights as collateral to apply for massive loans from state-owned banks, essentially using the bank's money to build. However, as a Hong Kong-listed company, Golden Finance was an outsider in the mainland market and faced numerous restrictions on its financing channels. More fatally, regulations stipulated that large-scale pre-sales to recoup capital could not begin until the project was completed and had passed inspection. This meant that Pan Sudong and his Golden Group had to bear the entire $10 billion development cost of Golden Metropolitan with their own funds. It was an exceedingly dangerous gamble, betting that the market would not experience violent fluctuations and that their own cash flow would never run dry during the lengthy construction period. Unfortunately, he lost the bet. In 2015, the dominoes began to fall. The financial earthquake. In June, the Chinese stock market experienced an unprecedented crash, with over 30% of its market value evaporating in less than a month. The crash triggered a chain reaction. Golden, which had borrowed heavily by pledging its shares during the stock market boom, saw its stock price plummet. Pan Sudong's personal fortune reportedly shrank by over $13 billion in a matter of days, a figure larger than the annual GDP of many small countries. The empire's coffers were emptied overnight. The fateful blast. On August 12 of the same year, a disaster unrelated to the 117 Tower, yet fatal to its destiny, occurred. A massive chemical explosion at the port of Tianjin shocked the world. This tragedy, compounded by the broader context of China's economic slowdown, caused the appeal of the once vibrant city to high-end businesses and the elite to cool abruptly. Although the developer defiantly held a topping-out ceremony for the 117 Tower in September, attempting to signal to the outside world that the project was still proceeding normally, it felt more like a grand funeral marking the end of an era. Shortly after the ceremony, the funding chain broke completely. By the end of 2015, all workers had departed, and all machinery had ground to a halt. A skyscraper on the verge of its coronation died suddenly, just a step away from completion. From 2015 to 2025, the 117 Tower entered its long ghost decade. It became a bizarre urban symbol, but in a way the developer least wanted. It attracted countless urban explorers and daredevil climbers from around the globe. These Spider-Men, risking their lives, infiltrated the vertical ruins, documenting its internal desolation and emptiness with their cameras, and spreading breathtaking videos of their ascents across the global internet. It became a YouTube celebrity, yet remained a wound that would not heal for Tianjin. This decade was also one in which China's real estate market shifted from feverish to rational. Facing an economy overly reliant on property, the Chinese government hit the brakes. A series of strict new regulations were introduced, drawing a line under the skyscraper construction boom. Cities with populations under 3 million were banned from constructing buildings over 150 meters. In cities with populations over 3 million, building heights were strictly capped at 250 meters. Buildings over 500 meters were banned entirely. This means that a super-tall skyscraper like the nearly 600-meter 117 Tower has become a one-of-a-kind, unrepeatable relic of a past era. Its very existence is a silent footnote to that age of soaring ambition. Fast forward to May 2025, and a turning point finally appeared. A new construction permit was announced, indicating the restart of the 117 Tower project. As the original developer, Golden Finance, had long since gone into bankruptcy and liquidation, the name Golden was removed from the project title. The new contract, valued at approximately $78 million, was taken over by the top-tier P&T Group and the Beijing Institute of Architectural Design. However, resurrecting a steel behemoth that has slumbered for a decade is far more difficult than imagined. It is not as simple as merely completing the finishing touches. Structural forensics. The construction team must first conduct a thorough structural safety assessment of this skeleton that has been exposed to the elements for 10 years. They will need to drill core samples from the core tube and steel frame to test if the concrete strength has deteriorated due to weathering, and if the rebar has developed rust invisible to the naked eye. An obsolete systems heart transplant. The mechanical, electrical, fire safety, and communication systems designed a decade ago are now woefully inadequate to meet today's building codes and safety standards. This means a vast amount of internal wiring, piping, and equipment must be redesigned, removed, and replaced, a process akin to complex internal surgery. Weathering and wear. Long-term exposure to sun, rain, and air pollution has inevitably caused aging and damage to the exposed curtain wall components and ceiling materials. Whether the building's load-bearing structure has experienced fatigue or minute settlement shifts during its decade of stasis must also be monitored with the most precise instruments. The core question of purpose. The more fundamental question is, in a China that is vastly different from a decade ago, what will a building of this colossal scale be used for? Will it still be a hotel and office complex for the wealthy? Or will it be repurposed for other uses more in line with current market demands? If its use changes, it will entail further structural modifications and cost increases. The official completion date is given as 2027, but no one can say for sure if, this time, the 117 tower will truly reach its finale. Today, as we look up once more at this waking, lonely Titan, we are filled with complex emotions. Is its revival a display of China's economic resilience, or a strained effort to atone for past mistakes? What role will this monument, born of a hubristic era, play in a new, more prudent and pragmatic age? Perhaps the ultimate fate of the 117 tower will provide our time with the most profound answer on the nature of dreams, reality, and their costs.